Dr. Miller with Journal Club number 5. This particular article is called Acute Effects of Cluster and Rest Redistribution Set Structures on Mechanical, Metabolic, and Perceptual Fatigue During and After Resistance Training, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. This was published in Sports Medicine in 2020, the time I'm recording this video. A very interesting review and meta-analysis, I think, of as much as I can determine, as much as you want to take my word for it, a very well done meta-analysis of the variable studies. Meta-analysis is a study of studies, essentially, on these two different terms. I think this is where the article significance really comes through, is that the differentiation of what's called a cluster set, and if you haven't seen my videos on that, I've made some in the past, and a rest redistribution type of set structure. So a cluster set is traditionally used in more quality work settings. So an example might be doing 10 repetitions in a set, but only doing 2 reps at a time with a 15 to 30 second rest interval between each cluster of 2 reps. Now, a cluster can be configured many different ways. In Olympic style weightlifting, you might do a 2+1. So you might do 2 snatches at a 85%, and then do the last one after a rest. And what's the point of that? Well, the idea is to reduce the amount of fatigue that occurs during a set, but not take a long enough rest period to start to add to more sets. It's a kind of a nice blend of the two, and the research literature in this particular meta-analysis supports this idea that cluster sets are superior to traditional sets in terms of maintaining power and barbell velocity. So that's one strategy. So you might do, again, you do your sets of 10 with 2 clusters at a time. Take your say the tradition is 30-second rest. You could do more 15-second for more of a hypertrophic response, but do 30-second rest, rack the bar, rest. Let's say you're squatting, rack the bar, rest. Take your next 2 reps, right? Blow them out of the water, rest, so on. You'll maintain barbell velocity in doing so. Now you might lose some of the metabolites, even though this article does pull in looking at lactate levels, and it's just, total work, lactates can be related to total work. So hypothetically, the more total work you do with that load maintained, which is what cluster sets will help with, you can produce more lactate. Now, whether or not that produces more of a hypertrophic response, at least in terms of sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, I don't know. This didn't look at hypertrophy. It just looked at movement quality. You can infer some things, but I won't go that far. The rest redistribution approach is taking that same 3 sets of 10, instead of chopping up the 10 reps into 2 rep clusters and then resting 3 minutes as convention or whatever it may be. You would do 10 sets of 3 with the same load, but you're capping the total amount of time that's done in the training. So cluster sets could take a long time. If you rested every 2 reps, I've used them, especially like front squats, cluster sets, like 5+5. I configure them that way just to maintain posture, because any good front squatter knows, anybody that's a good front squatter even knows that they'll lose posture over the course of a rep, start to turtle back. And so if you want to do some higher rep sets, cluster can be very beneficial. It keeps the athlete engaged or the individual engaged with the set. Long sets can oftentimes lead to focus, just loss of focus, and so 15-second rest mid-set can be great, even if it's not done in 2 rep clusters, what I'm getting at. But that can take more time per set, total time. So if you're crunched on time and you want to maintain quality of movement and you want to get 3 sets, you want to get 30 reps in, you could do a 10x3, and then look at the rest that you would typically have with 3 sets of 10. So let's say you rest 3 minutes after each set. I know it'd only be 2 3-minute blocks. First set of 10, 3 minutes, second set of 10, 3 minutes, and then you're done at the last set of 10. But let's just say you did 9 minutes total of rest. Well, you could chop up that 9 minutes now over 10 sets of 3, redistribute it. Shorter rest periods, but they're more frequently taken. So instead of 3-minute blocks of rest, you're going to have that rest period significantly reduced. And so it in a lot of ways, it looks like a cluster, but it's not the same. And I think that's important moving forward with articles like this that start to differentiate the different types of fatigue management in set and repetition schemes. Rest pause is another. That's typically 1 set. More of like a strip down method. There's myo reps. There's all these different ideas of accumulating volume as well, and managing fatigue in order to squeeze out more volume and to be time efficient. So anyway, these are 2 methods I think are more concerned with quality of movement, so maybe strength and power. And Olympic style weightlifting coaches, powerlifting coaches have been doing this for a long time, right? If you need to get 15 reps done, and that's optimal if you use the old the Prilepin chart, but let's say that's optimal. Instead of doing 3 sets of 5, where failure could be possible, 85% certainly it is. Barbell velocity gets slower, and if we having a chance to review the article, about 20% drop in barbell velocity leads to a switching of type 2X to type 2As. But if you train slow, you're going to be slow, and so that old adage has some merit to it. Said principle has merit to it. So the point is if you wanted to get volume in and maybe even move towards more of a myofibril type of hypertrophy, so getting bigger, more myofibrils rather than sarcoplasmic, then doing a structure instead of 3x10, you do a 10x3 may make more sense. And the little bit of research we have from Schoenfeld and other Schoenfeld is that you get the same hypertrophic response either way. However, now we're talking about when adjusting the load. However, here we're saying, well, the load's going to remain the same. So you're going to do 10x3 with the same load you would do 3x10. Okay, where some of the studies that use, the only study that used that I've seen so far that used this differentiation and set and repetition schemes changed the load. Okay, and so anyway, rest redistribution approach. Its benefit is that it has a time cap to it, where cluster sets can take much longer to complete. Cluster sets, according to this meta-analysis, were superior in maintaining quality of movement defined as barbell velocity, power. But again, if time is an issue, rest redistribution type approach is still superior to traditional sets. And so moving towards that strategy might be a nice blend. So if you've seen any of my videos on set and repetition strategies, I hope you see that it's not about adopting one or the other as a gimmicky type of thing. It's understanding these are all tools, and you have to know when to apply these tools and when to say, I don't need that. If you're trying to get some good biceps work in and you want some metabolic fatigue as a result, or if you want some metabolite type of training, you want some fatigue that's accrued, and you want to go to failure and all this. These type of strategies may not make any sense for an isolation movement. It may be better to go ahead and do your set of 12 to near failure to failure, especially on the last set, in order to gain benefit. Where if this is talking about squat and you're trying to get stronger and avoid fatigue, or even as a part of a complete program where maybe you have one day that's more maximal and one day that's more repetition, this type of strategy, I'm looking at the paper, is cluster set or rest redistribution type of approach may be better in order to hit those type 2 fibers more efficiently. Again, just depends on how much time you have then. If you have all the time in the world, cluster set. If you don't, if you're capped on time, then the rest redistribution may be a better method. So check it out. It's, I think, very well done. You'll know one of the authors on there, Helms. Obviously, he's done quite a bit in this. There's others too, McGuigan as well. In a sense, it's kind of a who's who in the author list. So, but check it out if you can. If you can get a download, at least, take a look at the abstract. Obviously, that's not going to give you the full picture, but it'll give you some summation of what the study was about. I'd recommend it. Picking up, take a look at it if you're a strength coach, interested in weight training at all, and in any way, especially related to strength and power. I think you'll find this beneficial if you have questions about how cluster sets and rest redistribution type of sets might be effective in training strength, in particular, and power. All right, I'll go talking in circles. If you haven't had a chance, check out my other videos. Subscribe to my channel. And again, I hope you found this review useful, and I will see you in the next video.